Hey everybody, welcome back to DC Football 101. I'm your host, Lucas, a part of 14 Rings and NFC East podcast. We are recording for week 14. I can't believe the season's almost over already, but there are some things that we need to talk about, so let's break it down first. We are playing against the Minnesota Vikings this next week. Now, pros and cons about this game. First off, Jayden Daniels is coming back. Now, some people may say, and I was one of the first to say, I changed my mind though. You're allowed to change minds as a sports fan, that he should not be coming back. I think he should, because you have to see what you got when the team is healthy, even if the games don't matter at this point, even if it makes your draft odds a little bit worse. You got to see what you have so you can address it properly. Now, that being said, we have lost 7 games in a row, but there's a good chance we break that streak this week. We're playing against the Minnesota Vikings, who have lost 4 in a row and arguably have one of the worst QB situations in the NFL. Let's break it down, okay? You could argue they're 4-8 right now, right? They're 4-8. They're arguably their best QB play this season has came from Carson Wentz, and us Commanders know that that's not a good thing, okay? Look, and he's out for the season now. They're relying on second-year quarterback J.J. McCarthy. Now, we all know J.J. was drafted in the same draft class as Jayden, and right now, if we're looking at it, if I'm looking at all the stats here, and I have the stats here on the side here, if we look at the stats right now, McCarthy's arguably the worst quarterback of that draft so far. And I'm just saying the worst. He has, the third worst yards total. So he's only played in 6 games, but he has the third worst yards total. And on top of that, he is the only one that has more interceptions than touchdowns. Even Joe Milton, who has seen limited games, I think he's only played 3 games, he still has more touchdowns than interceptions. He has 6 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. The decision-making is not there. Arguably, they had one of the best QB situations last year in Sam Darnold. Now he's gone to Seattle, and now they have arguably one of the worst. Because JJ, there's always at least one bust from a draft, and right now he's look, Spencer Rattler, who, if you listen to our main episodes on 14 Rings at all, you know that we have not taken seriously. But even him, in what is it? Let me see here. In Spencer Rattler's 15 starts, he's had 2,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Has he played absolutely great? No. But has he played serviceable as probably a decent backup in the league? Yeah, he has. JJ hasn't done that yet. Now, this isn't to say that he will never be a good quarterback, but in order for us to have victory here, we have to put pressure on him and make him make mistakes. Now, I think we have the tools, despite the lack of a true pass rusher on the defense. Frankie Louvu starting to figure things out. We saw that last game as a pass rusher. And look, at the end of the day, J.J. McCarthy is going to make things a little bit easier for us too, as a defense. Like, we got to make sure we push turnovers. That's the thing. So 2 keys to victory here already out of the 3. Pressure on McCarthy, force turnovers, okay? Pressure on McCarthy, force turnovers. Those are 2 keys. Simple as that, right? Easy peasy. They already have one of the worst offenses in the league. They're bottom 4 in total offense and yards per game. So this, despite having Justin Jefferson and a decent wide receiving core, if the quarterback's not making it work, it's not going to work. So we have a chance to take advantage of that, right? They're 4-8 right now. So those are 2 keys right there. The third key is going to be a little bit trickier because they actually do have a pretty elite defense there. I think they're top 10, if I remember correctly, in yards per game. And when it comes down to it, let me see here. Yards per game, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're 10th in yards allowed per game. So they're going to be a problem. And we got to figure that out. There is a way to attack this defense, I believe, okay? In terms of passing yards, they're one of the best. They have really good secondary. They're not going to allow. They're top 5, and they're 5th in the league in passing yards allowed a game. But this is Jayden's first game back, so Jayden, you cannot allow turnovers, okay? You cannot turn over the ball. That's the one thing. Take it easy. But in terms of attacking them, you got to attack them in terms of the rushing game, okay? Right now, they're middle of the pack in rushing, allowing rushing yards per game, and finally starting to figure out how to use the 3-headed monster in our running back room with Corey Crosby-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, Jeremy McNichols, and Chris Rodriguez, okay? So as long as we focus on the run game, don't take care of the ball, slow down the pace on offense, force turnovers and pressure the quarterback on the defense, we can actually break that 7-game losing streak. Now, some of you guys say we don't need that. I disagree. I think, first off, the team isn't a losing team. They are a team trying to play the hardest they can, and you want to see these guys playing hard because you need to know what you have in next year. Adam Peters did not have the best offseason this year. I think we can all agree on that. But there are players on this team that we need to look at. And actually, I'm going to pull that up now. So let me go ahead and pull that up. We got some advanced stats. I don't really do this too often, but I want to look at the advanced stats. So advanced stats in terms of rushing, okay? In terms of yards per contact, Jacory's pretty good at getting a lot of yards per contact. Out of the 518 yards he has on the season, 250 of them have become, half of his yards basically are before contact. And that means he's getting a lot of yards after contact too. That's pretty good, okay? So that being said, and he has 7 broken tackles. I know that he slowed down a little bit, but in terms of overall, you can't expect too much from a 7th round pick, and I know that he was kind of a steal there, but he's played solid. Chris Rod, he's our bruising back. We have our bruising back of the center, goal line back, Chris Rod. Jerry McNichols has not been bad as a 3rd down back. Now, is he ideal maybe long-term? At 30 years old, probably not. But we need to get a 3rd down back that's a little bit more of a pass catcher. But McNichols has been fine up to this point, and he's a good veteran player too. Merritt and Chris Rod, they're both 24 and 25 respectively, so we have good running backs, okay? Now, when we go to the receiving group, okay, there's a lot of things to keep in mind here. Okay, so, and I'm not really even worried too much about the receiving group here. I mean, we just need everybody to be healthy. Luke needs to come back next year. Terry's finally starting to get healthy. Debo has been playing through some injury. We need him to get healthy. But I'm more looking at the tight ends here because, obviously Zach Ertz is 35. We cannot rely on him forever. But we need to figure out what that looks like, right? So let's look at some advanced pass. So if we're looking at yards after the catch per reception, in terms of yards catch per after reception, Ben Sinnott actually leads the room with 7.3. Now, yet again, Ben Sinnott has not been getting a lot of touches. I don't understand why. They have not explained it to us. Whenever he plays, he looks good. I don't get it. But for whatever reason, and maybe it's just because Zach Ertz is that good. I don't know. But we need to see more Ben, okay? Because if we look at, let's see here. What's the other thing that I want to pull up here? If we look at passer rating of people that get the ball caught to them at the passer rating, guess what? Ben Sinnott is 2nd on the team only to Luke McCaffrey. Treylon Burks is 3rd. So, these young guys have something here that we need to look at, okay? Colson Yankoff is even higher than Zach Ertz on this list, okay? So, look, and I think Yankoff actually has some good skills here. I think that Ertz has some good skills. So, look, I think honestly, I'm not even that worried about the tight end room. We just need to use our young guys. And I get that Ertz is really that good. Look, this is no hate on Ertz, but he's blocking some of our young guys from actually being able to go out there and prove that, hey, we actually have skill. You don't need to fill this position. Now, I know some people have said the wide receiver from Baltimore Ravens, not Mark Andrews, who just got paid. Now, I know some people have said Isaiah Likely should be a free agent target him, and I don't think you would be bad for targeting him, but I do think you have an in-house option incident. You just need to let him play. Okay, and I get it. Zach Ertz, really good. And I get that John Bates is one of the best pass blocking, one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. I get all that. But we got to work in Ben more. I don't know why he's in Cliff's doghouse, but he is. So we need to figure that out. But Isaiah Likely wouldn't be a bad free agent target either. So that being said, so these are some interesting facts in terms of the defensive players. So what if I told you guys that among the cornerbacks on our team, that Marshawn Lattimore, despite we all thinking that, oh, well, maybe he's not having a good season, he actually has not allowing completions, against him among all the cornerbacks in the room. He's at 59%, which sounds high, But compared to Noah Iggy, who is 66%, Mike Samerskill, which is 70%, Trey Amos, 71%, he's actually doing good in that regard, right? In terms of yards per completion against him, yet again, among cornerbacks, okay, so Trey Amos is the best there, and then Mikey. Marshawn is at 14, but Mikey and Trey are at like 11 and 12 respectively. So it's not a big gap there, right? So Marshawn is still actually doing pretty good in the advanced stats, right? So receiving yards per target, okay? So allowed, right? So these are the per allowed, right? How many yards, right? So the best one here is Trey Amos, which we kind of thought, right? But Marshawn's right there with him. They're tied, actually. So yet again, Marshawn is not having a bad season, despite what everybody else. Now, they might say, oh, he's not the lockdown corner he used to be. And maybe that's true. Maybe teams are picking on him a little bit because he's smaller, right? But the numbers are saying he's not any worse than any of these other guys, and actually is better in some respects than other. Now, passer rating allowed against them. Yet again here, Marshawn is the best among cornerbacks on the league at only 93%, right? Noah is next at 96, and Trey is at 104. And then if we go all the way down, Mikey's at 110. So, like, yet again, Marshawn is actually doing a good job. Despite what we're seeing, the stats are saying, hey, he's not doing any worse than any of these other guys. So I think maybe we need to do that, right? Maybe we need to give him a little bit more grace. Right now, yards after catch in terms of completion. Now this one is yet again. Let me see if I can find it here. Noah has the best one, but we all know Noah's not playing as much snaps. Marshawn is only 60 yards after completion that he's allowed, which, in consideration, he's been targeted 37 times. Not that bad. He is, I will say, in terms of being targeted as a defender, Mikey's first, Bobby's second, Quan Martin's third, Trey Amos is fourth, Marshawn's fifth. Yet again, I'm not like, wow. I mean, honestly, this is more of an indictment on Mikey and Bobby, but Mikey's starting to play better now that he's back on the outside. I do want to say that. So, we can talk about all these advanced stats. The rest of these are pass rushing and stuff like that. But when we come down to it, Marshawn's not playing as bad as we think he is, or maybe the eye test is telling us one thing, the advanced stats is telling us another thing. What does that mean? I'm not 100% sure, honestly. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about that. But, in the meantime, I want to say that, the advanced stats do not hate Marshawn Lattimore this season. They don't. So what does that tell us in the grand scheme of things? Will he be back? Will he be not? I don't know. The injury is not great. Maybe he gets cut, but look, I mean, obviously we still have a young core, and I said this on the main podcast on 14 Rings, but we know that Quan Martin played cornerback in college, right? And he's been very much struggling, in the NFL as a safety, right? He's played cornerback, right? So maybe what we need to do is switch him from cornerback, safety to cornerback. Maybe that's something we need to do. I don't know. We'll see. But in the meantime, we have a chance to win this game. This is a real chance. This is not a drill. Look, the Commanders, I like the vibes after last week, despite the loss. I think we get a win here. But until next time, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. We're over 200 followers on YouTube. Next goal is 300. Make sure that you follow us if you're not already. Until next time, raise hell.